known to yell that loud either.
All right. Yeah, that was a little much, huh?
That was too much.
All right, let's do it. I get the headphones on. I get excited. All right, let's try that again. Want to give me one more clap?
Can you just do it?
We'll do clap number 2. No, dude, I like when you do it. Thanks, man.
Dang, guest's doing it.
Hello, and welcome to the Ratnest podcast. Today I'm joined by my good friend, Bryan Bruce.
Hello.
What up, Bryan?
Hi.
For our first in-studio interview that we've done thus far. So we're going to talk about being the creative director at bars around Southern California, the process of opening up new restaurants, and, maybe just whatever you did yesterday.
Shoot the shit.
You know how we go. So let's start this off by doing a little cheers. Yeah, salud, boys.
Gentlemen,
Bryan was nice enough to whip up some gin smashes for us.
delicious.
And I'm going to slurp this whole episode.
There we go.
All right, dude, let's jump right into this.
Let's do it.
So,
Oh, I'm Jim, by the way. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks
Oh.
for introducing me, bro.
Shit, Jim's off camera on this episode. I forgot.
Yeah,
I'm
hey,
just going to keep
I'm
looking
over
at Jim
here.
throughout this so that way you guys know he's still in this room, part of this whole thing.
We're like, yeah, Jim, just acknowledging him over there.
I'll just throw in a that's right every once in a while.
We have a wide shot. We'll show you, bro.
All right. Hey, guys.
All right, so I remember the first time we drank together, but I remember more
Wow.
the first time we met.
Okay.
And I don't think you're going to remember this.
You got me there. I don't remember the first time we drank together or the first time we met. I do, however, remember a lot of times where we were drinking, but just not those specific occasions.
And it might have not been the first time we drank together, but the night we kind of like hit the town for the first time.
Okay.
But stepping back to when we first met, it was a house party
Okay.
here in Redlands, California. And
Oh, God.
you were standing around, as you do at house parties, a group of dudes like in the backyard standing around, bullshitting, probably smoking cigarettes or weed, whatever.
Okay. Guilty as charged. Keep going.
I didn't know anybody. And so I walked back there, and my wife, now girlfriend at the time, Nicole, was like, well, you know Bree's boyfriend, Bryan. And I said yes, but I didn't know who you were.
Uh-huh.
And so we might have met, and I just didn't know. Like, I didn't remember or something, because you said, what's up, man? And I went, or you go, what's up, man? I'm Bryan. And I went, Bryan. And I just repeated your name and shook your hand. And you're like, what's your name? And I was like, Matt.
So introductions, obviously, as we just realized over here with Jim, are not really your strong suit.
No, I'm
cool.
I'm terrible.
All right.
I'm very bad at.
Not only introducing other people, but also yourself.
Yeah.
We just dropped off comics for this kid in Hollywood. 300 and something comics. It's like a huge order. We hand delivered them, and his wife's there. Jim's there. I didn't introduce myself to anyone. I didn't introduce Jim to anybody, and we were together for what, 10 minutes?
At least.
It was
These two just went into their own world.
My
bro.
mind doesn't work that way, dude.
All right.
I get caught up in the moment, right? So I go, Bryan, and you go, what's your name? And I go, Matt. Cool, Matt. And everyone in the circle starts just laughing, right? Like, just like, oh. And I felt so deflated, dude. I was like, fuck this party. I was like so mad. And I sat there and I like bullshit with you guys. And, it became easier to talk to everybody. But just that first initial kick in the dick of just not being able to say hello, right?
Whose house was this?
I think it was,
Was it mine?
it was
If it was mine,
Scruffy's from Mother Speed, or maybe Travis's.
maybe Travis's. Yeah. I was going to say, if it was my house and I like gave you that like cool, awkward kick in the dick feeling, then that's way worse. But if you did that to yourself
No.
and it was like a neutral
It was
playing
neutral
field,
territory,
then, like,
yeah.
I
Can't-
mean, I can't control that.
That's on you,
dude,
bro.
For sure, it was like neutral territory. But it was funny because I remember being so embarrassed, and Nicole was just like, "You're dumb. Like they don't care." You know what I mean?
Okay, so that was first time we met, and then
First time we hit the town,
Okay, what'd we do? Where'd we go?
we'd know each other for a little while, but we never really hung out just because of the girls.
Yeah.
And you guys came to San Diego to visit, and you were like, "Let's do the crawl." You hadn't been to Underbelly yet.
Yep.
It was Bree's birthday, maybe.
I think I remember this one. Yeah.
And we started at one side of 30th Street, which is like the main
We
drag in
bounced
my
all over.
neighborhood, and we just went up. Bart Pink, 7 grand,
Yep.
all over the place. Just all kinds of cocktails, mixing everything, no rhyme or reason.
No.
And
But when you're on vacation, though, it's hard to kind of gauge that. It's hard to hold back when you have a list. You make a list. For me, when I go traveling somewhere, even if it's just to see a friend who might live in a better city or a different city than me or whatever, I'll make a list of things that I want to kind of tackle when I go. And it was like, cool, we're going to go see Matt. We're going to go see Nicole. We're going to go out. We're going to have a day or two there. I have a list of where we're going to go. And so when you have that list, you're not, oh, well, I kind of, we're going to start off with beer and then maybe we'll do some wine in the evening. No, we're just going. You're just doing it all.
And that's perfect. That's how I like to get down. So it was like super fun. I just remember getting hammered. We like shut the bars down. I think we ended up at $7,000 like way later than we were supposed to.
Yep.
And they were really nice to us and like let us have one more and stuff.
Yep.
That was a sweet ass time.
Polite Provisions. I know we were there for a little while. Underbelly.
Yeah, Underbelly. Bar Pink. Rest in peace, Bar Pink.
That place
One of
is
the
dope.
institutions of North Park recently closed down because of COVID this year.
Were we doing karaoke there, or am I making this up in my head?
There was karaoke happening. I didn't do any. I don't know if you did.
I don't know if I did.
It was almost like live DJ
I love
karaoke.
Yeah. No, that place is beautiful. It was an old, super old, really, really like historic style bar. It was really cool.
Shout out the owner. Dang, like did nothing to change it over the years, and I love that. It was just it aged with a nice patina.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So we have all right.
So we had some good times, but I just thought those two were funny times because one, I made an ass of myself, and the second time we were like just all in like frat boys. Like we were just like, let's fucking get drunk, dude.
Well, I guess after receiving a kick to the dick, and as you so eloquently put it, we kind of had to bury the hatchet and kind of get into some more of the fun times. And so I guess that would be the ratchet ass like frat guy kind of situation. I guess
Bryan felt so bad at your introduction the first time. He's like, I got to make this kid feel all right.
Yeah.
He can feel okay around me. Let's go hit the town and
Let's
really
go
do it.
Nicole's boyfriend needs a come up. He needs a handmade one. One of the things I love about you that you just mentioned, though, is that any city that I'm going to go to, I ask you recommendations.
Yep.
And you're very in tune with what's happening around the country as far as food and beverage goes. So if you ever need a recommendation, email Bryan at.
BryanBruce@gmail.com.
I was heading to Chicago, and you got to check out Aviary. I didn't get to go there that time, but 3 dash and dot, or 3 dot and a dash, Heavy Feather, Parsons, a bunch of other great bars to check out there that I think you gave me a couple recommendations to. But it's always nice to have kind of a destination when you travel, so you're not just at the whim of Yelp or stumbling around until you might find something good, which isn't normally the case. You might find an okay bar or something, but something that's going to blow you out of the water is normally a little hidden from the general public or like walking traffic and stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times when I go traveling, when I'm, being in the industry, I've been in now for going on, 17 years. You kind of always, you meet people along the way that work in a lot of these establishments. You find out from different people when you go and work events or you go and travel. You find the places where bartenders like to drink, where, you're looking something up on Yelp or online or Google searching or whatever. You might find a place that a lot of tourists go to. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the best place to actually put yourself down for the evening and get a great drink or get a good meal. So, I know what that's like. For myself, when I'm going places, the majority of the time I'm reaching out to other people that either live in that community that I've made friends with, or they've got full-blown travel lists bigger than the ones I've put together. So,
is that kind of how you navigate when you go places outside of the country? Is just recommendations from people you know or that you're staying with, or do you try to dive into that on your own research as well?
Outside of the country, I try to rely on other people's experience. It also just depends what country I'm going to, and for myself, I was lucky and fortunate enough a couple years ago, before opening up a Thai restaurant that I own, we went ahead and did some research in Bangkok. The problem with Bangkok is, you're a really small percentage of people that are visiting that are actually speaking English. And so you have to go a lot by word of mouth and a lot of based on who you're with that actually can speak Thai. And so you do put together a small game plan of things that you want to do and see, but you're kind of just really going off of the tour guides of people that you've surrounded yourself with.
So the plan is more get there and ask somebody where to go rather than we're going to get there and go here and do this. And so you kind of get guided by whoever you ask once you get there.
I mean, yeah, because once you get there, too, you learn one thing. You go to one spot. One of my favorite things to do when I'm visiting a space is asking the bartenders or someone that maybe they're the host or, you know, maybe it's a concierge or wherever I'm staying, like asking them, where would you be on a night like tonight? Or where's a great place for this? You know, I've heard of this, and this. They kind of might, you know, reach what I'm trying to do, but, you know, I want to know where you, the locals, are at. And once you find that out, then you can kind of, okay, we hit one of those places, talk to a bartender. They're telling us now to go check this place out. And then all of a sudden, everything you planned on is out the window. And you just kind of have to really, like, be moldable in that regard.
Have you ever found yourself in, like, a situation that was uncomfortable or, I mean, obviously uncomfortable situations, but anything in visiting a foreign country where you did take the advice of a local or someone and it put you somewhere you didn't want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there was this one situation. It was a little dangerous. I found myself, okay, cool. You know, I don't like to kind of always be a part of the group that I'm with. I want to do my own exploring. I find a lot of inspiration in kind of wandering around and allow my creativity to spark itself by just experiencing the city without any like limitations, guidelines, kind of this is what the schedule is. I kind of like to wander around and kind of find things on my own. And so there was one day where I did that. Okay, cool. I'm going to go get tattooed over on this one end of town. It's way on the other side of the city. I'm going to walk there as opposed to jumping in a tuk-tuk or a taxi or a bus or a train, whatever. I'm going to walk there. I'm going to walk the city. I'm going to see a bunch of stuff. I'm going to get inspired. I'm going to, you know, enjoy my day. And I did it by myself. And, you know, you plug into Google Maps or something on your phone, like, all right, walking path. And it takes you on a walking path. Well, I found myself at one point down the smallest, weirdest little alley, and about a pack of like 10 or 12 stray, like wild dogs were there. And I knew exactly what was happening. They saw me. They were like chewing on like a carcass of a dead animal. And they saw me, lifted up their head, and just all kind of just started not charging, but like walking sternly with like their ears like pinned all the way back. And I'm like, oh my God, this isn't going to go all right.
I'm about to be lunch for these
so immediately I'm like, okay, fucking keep cool. They can sense fear. I just put my hands up like above, like so they couldn't like nip at my hands or like pull me down from my arms or whatever. So I put my arms up, walked down, and I mean this like alleyway was like no more than like 10 feet wide. So there's no, and I was so far in when I saw these dogs that if you turn around,
you couldn't outrun them at that point.
You can't outrun them. If you turn around, you're going to show fear. They're going to want to follow you.
You just got to alpha up.
You did, and that's exactly what I did. And as I'm walking past them, they're like nipping at my ankles and my like pants that I was wearing. I could feel them just at me, and I'm like, oh my God, don't stop. Don't turn around, just keep going. And so it's like, yeah, you go out on these adventures. You think about what you have planned for that day, and it doesn't always end up the way that you want it
to. No.
But it was a good time. I enjoyed myself. Like I said, I got a lot of inspiration out of like exploring different parts of the city that might not be where the majority of tourists actually decide that they want to end up. But I mean, those places, like you think about if you've never been to New York, a lot of times people are like, oh, Times Square. There's no culture in that area. You want to go and find the places where there's culture so that way you can experience that local community and kind of get an idea about who they are and what they are in that area.
Dude. So do you think that doing that, like having that drive whenever you travel, is kind of what pushed you towards being able to make these like specialty cocktails and tasting these different things all around the world and all around these different cities and kind of mixing them together, being able to create a menu? Or do you think you travel and look for these places because you're in the cocktail industry and like you're kind of seeking things out? Which one came first?
I guess it's one of those traditional like chicken or the egg situations, and at the same time it's both of those and then none of them. I mean, like one of the things I always like I get inspiration from is it's kind of weird, but I love watching like sports documentaries because I get so amped up and I love seeing how hard people work and like the work ethic that they put into it and like just how hard they grind. I get like super amped up by stuff like that. And then the rest of the time it's like, you know, I tell my girlfriend Brie all this time, I was like, I'll get in the shower and I jump out and she's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I got the best idea. I always get ideas when I'm in the shower. Or like the other day, like I woke up at like 3 a.m. because I had like some weird like nightmare dream happening. And then I like laid in bed for like a couple hours, like trying to like decipher what was going on. Next thing you know, I'm like, oh, cool. I have this idea for something. And so it's not necessarily always just traveling and then gaining stuff from the traveling. a lot of times when I've traveled, I find, because what doesn't come as naturally to me is like finding inspiration for bar decor. You know, I own a restaurant, and so I decorated that whole space. I was the interior designer for that. And so that stuff doesn't come as naturally to me. So I have to go and find that inspiration elsewhere. And so a lot of times that's where I get inspiration for everything else. Cocktails, food, things like that. I feel like as far as that creative process is concerned, I kind of pick and choose where that's at from a lot of different things. And not choosing and picking. It's just like, it could be something as, you know, minimal as just your day to day walking down the road, or like running errands, or, you know, a lot of times I'll be in the grocery store and I'll see like a flavor combination. And, you know, one of those ones like lately was when you go to Trader Joe's and, you know, they have those like everything but the bagel, like those things. Like I find those things and I'm like, oh, that would be cool on this, or that would be cool on that. And then all of a sudden I get like an idea for a food item or a cocktail item just from little things like that.
Okay.
And so flavor combinations that are built like that, it's like, cool. That's really interesting. A blend of tea that they decided to use this flavor and this flavor together. Oh my God, that'd be so rad if I broke that down and turned it into this. Like, I mean, I feel like traveling is a luxury, especially during COVID times, like right now. Not everyone has the ability to do that. I don't think that creativity is dependent on that, or vice versa. I feel like, you know, a lot of times that creation aspect, it happens in our day to day.
Yeah, I think traveling might be a catalyst for making you think a different way and kind of being open up to experiences or smells or flavors that you're not accustomed to. But ultimately, it's not so much, at least for me, if I try to recreate a drink based on somewhere I've been, it's more about the feeling I had when I was like in that place. It's not necessarily the exact ingredients or drink that I had. It's about like encompassing like that experience,
that feeling that you had when you're you know, consuming that or whatever. Yeah,
right.
I agree.
It's like, you know, you go tropical, you make a really nice punch, or, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same build or makeup, or it doesn't have to be outrageous and try to take a twist. It's just something that's nice and balanced and makes you feel good.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah,
I
simple,
dig it.
dude.
Isn't that the point of cocktails?
Yeah, I like simple
Just
cocktails.
make you feel good.
I as much as I appreciate all the work that people do to infuse all different types of syrups and tinctures and gums and palms and any type that you want to talk about, it's like, to me, just give me a nice simple like two-parter. I'm fine.
Yeah, I agree. When I'm at home, it's funny, you know, I worked last week at the restaurant, and probably the first time in a while I'd worked. I've been given a lot of shifts to some of the staff since they don't have very many hours. And so it was the first time shaking a cocktail in kind of a while. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm a bartender by trade. Like, this is weird that I've been doing this. And I like go backwards and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I've just been drinking like whiskey highballs and like Campari sodas at home. And like, yeah, the very simple drinks, there's something, you know, to it, to where you don't need to muddy what it is those flavors already are. They're already done in such a delicious, you know, put together way that changing the profile of them is kind of, you're not doing them justice.
And I know I speak for a lot of bartenders when I say that, like, we make all these complicated fancy drinks that are on these menus for the consumers, right? So we make them constantly. So maybe we just get burnt out, and when we go out, I just want a beer and a shot of whiskey or something.
Yeah.
I know a lot of bartenders that are like that.
I'm one of those guys. I some of the programs that I've been a part of, I've been pretty fortunate enough to work with some really
Let's talk about that, just to name drop a couple places. The Walker Inn in the Normandy Club in LA.
Walker Inn, Normandy Club in LA.
W. Wolfskill in Riverside.
Mm-hmm.
You've guest bartended all over Polite Provisions.
Yep.
Didn't you open up Citrus and Olive, or
so
did their
I helped
cocktail
out,
menu?
Yeah, so so starting, I was in Portland working bartending. I'll give you
Where
the
we
full.
start, dude?
Yeah.
Come on.
Run it down, break it down.
Managed a bar up in Portland, Oregon for a few years, and then, that was like 10 years ago. Moved back down here, worked at W. Wolfskill in Riverside. It was a very citrus-forward kind of bar project. Helped set up that whole program with them there. Moved over from there to Walker Inn and Normandy Club. So that's owned by Proprietors LLC, which own Death & Co., and they have the original in New York. They have the one in L.A. They have one in Denver. So worked with them over there, and that's kind of where I guess gathered so much of my information and my resources and know-how was from working with them. They had actually set up Wolfskill as a kind of a proprietary consulting group. They'd set that up, and so I learned from them there a lot, and then moved over with them to their spot in LA at Death and Co. Not Death and Co. In Walker Inn and Normandy Club, and so did that. And for me, I learned a lot doing that. But then coming back over here to Redlands, I was a part of Olive and Citrus, set up that bar program there, set their menus and everything, their standards up, consulted on a couple other places here in town, and then finally had always planned on doing my own thing. And so finally I opened up a Thai street food restaurant called Aroy Mak Mak. And, it's very different. You're stretching your brain in different ways in the sense that you're making Thai style cocktails. So, you're used to creating in a whole spectrum. All of a sudden you have to take that spectrum, cut it into a small portion and say, all right, these are the ingredients that you're now going to use. And so that's been really interesting to take those small amount of things that you can work with and really just broaden them, expand them, and challenge yourself to think outside of the box that you've traditionally been in. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that's good. No,
That was awesome. I was enthralled right now.
But with working with such, like high valued businesses, like the owners of Death and Co are, hailed as the best bars in America.
Yeah.
So working at Walker Inn, the process and the prep and the know-how that goes into something like that, was that more like time-consuming and strenuous than actually opening your own restaurant where you have to focus on stuff for yourself?
It's different. I mean, so Walker Inn and Normandy Club, let's see. While we were there, we were best new bar in LA. We were also the number 37 bar in the world while I was working there. They set up an infrastructure and a style that they want everybody to gain all the information of everything they put into place there. And so your job isn't just stepping behind the bar. Your job is in creating a lot of these cocktails that go onto the menu that changes every month, or actually it was every 6 weeks. A new concept of a menu was there.
It was like bi-seasonal, like every 6 weeks, right?
Every 6 weeks. And you had cocktail menus that were built around climates. I had a couple cocktails on the climate menu, so different climates from around the world reimagined, and you had to put those into cocktail form. Everything from something like that to, we had a science fair project menu where at one point I had this sunflower seed daiquiri, and the idea was that like sunflower seeds enhanced your memory by consumption. And so I kind of played off that, and I set up a daiquiri that you would drink, and then I built this like memory card game. I like designed with an Illustrator. I designed out these like little icons, printed them, laminated them, and I would give them out to everybody that sat at the bar top, and we would all sit down and do this as like a group together. Okay, guys, play this game really quickly, sip on this. Now I'm going to make you this drink, make the drink. Sunflower seeds are in there. We talk about how that increases your memory. Then I put these headphones, and I had these the team over there was so rad. Like literally, I had this stupid idea, and it was like, okay,
It's
and then I want them.
It's a 9-minute experience.
Yeah, and then I had this like, okay, we're gonna put these headphones on them, and we're gonna play this music that like helps improve their memory as well. So like, you tell the ownership that, and they're like, dope. So they had like little headphone jacks wired into the bar top. So when you sit down, there are these headphones, giant headphones like these, like sitting there for you. So then, okay, now you put your headphones on, you play the game again, and then you finish your cocktail, and then play one more time and see how it all works out, and then everything. So
It's so dope.
It sounds very like
it's weird, it's
intricate
crazy.
and crazy.
Yeah.
But even when I was there for the Angels and V whiskey event, which could have been a very just classic cocktail forward whiskey event,
Yeah.
it was female British literature based cocktails.
Wow.
Every one of like the 6 drinks was paired with a excerpt from a female British novelist. And I just remember being blown away. Like, who the fuck would would think of this? It is just so far out of my realm because I'm a simpler kind of bartender, I guess, or more simple in that kind of way. I like classic cocktails. I can tell you a little tiny smidgen about a lot of things, but I would never go into depth in building a menu that required so much intellect. It is very impressive.
Thanks. It was honestly a very fun thing to be a part of. It was humbling, and it was really cool because I was given the opportunity to work there. I was given the opportunity to learn there, and you don't take those jobs on to make $1 bajillion. You take those jobs on because they mean something, and because you are leaving there. And that's kind of the same thing that I've taken with a lot of the bartenders and people, whether they're servers, barbacks, bar prep people in my restaurant. I always say too, when I hire, I'm never going to hire laterally. Or horizontally. I'm never going to hire someone to do the exact same job. I'm always going to give somebody a new skill set. I'm always going to give them something that they're going to leave with. They're always going to be better from the time, whether it's a week or a year or whatever. They're always going to have a knowledge base that they're leaving with, and I think that's kind of the best to be able to provide that for people. And because you don't want to just hire someone for just a job and they fill the spot and then that's it. Like, you want to make sure that they're making the most out of their life and doing the best that they can.
Well, that's when your passion is, when you're learning and growing.
Absolutely.
And you have something to prove.
Those jobs aren't jobs anymore.
Yeah, you're doing it because you're excited to do it.
Yeah. And then you get people working harder and they're working better and they're contributing and being creative and adding to that environment and that space. And
they're excited to do it. It's not forced.
Exactly. It's fun when you can be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So opening up the restaurant.
Yeah, what was your original question? We went off on a huge tangent here. Sorry.
I was just thinking, opening up your restaurant is compared to working for some of the like higher end places that involve all this prep and work and process.
Yeah.
Scaling it to a set of ingredients, or at least like a concept of Thai cocktails. You said it was a lot because you're cutting everything into a third of what it originally is that you can use for ingredients. What was the most difficult thing about building that menu with those ingredients?
I mean, I guess that's kind of why I went to Thailand to begin with, was to try and figure out what that local, produce and terroir was like. And so once I kind of got an understanding of that, it's like, all right, we have an understanding of what pandan leaf is, and we know how loganberries are, and we have an understanding of the style of cuisine. We already kind of knew that, but like, obviously when it comes to drinks, how do you make that translate? There is no Thai drinking scene. And, if you go there, you'll realize the one thing that they do drink, it's like cold beer and Johnny Walker Black Label and soda water. They make Johnny Walker highballs all day long. And it's kind of like, that's it. And so when you think about building a cocktail program, you're like, well, I'm limited to beer and I'm limited to scotch. And there are some ingredients and stuff here and there, but how do you best represent the culture of Thailand? How do you best represent the lifestyle of the people there and do those ingredients justice? How do you best represent those ingredients to actually make this seem like from that area? And so that's a tough thing. It was tough to kind of figure that out. But then once you get going, you start, putting everything together and kind of figuring all that out. It starts to be a cool thing. You get a better understanding and kind of go on from there.
So on your trip to Thailand to prepare for opening up this restaurant, it was you and your business partner who all went, and how long did you guys stay there and immerse yourself in that?
So of the 5 of us business partners, there was myself, my friend Ryan Burke, and my friend Cope. Those are 2 of the owners. And so it was the 3 of us that went out there. The other 2 partners stayed back here, and we weren't opened yet, so it's not like anyone had to work or whatever for the restaurant. They're holding it down, and we're off having fun now. We all took time off from our actual normal jobs at that point to go and kind of do this thing. And it was interesting. Obviously, Cope was the only Thai person that went with us. And so that's what I was kind of referring to before. And having somebody that has an understanding of the space and can also speak the language of everyone there. And so it was fun. It was really interesting to go and see those things. It was interesting to, be a part of see the industry that you work in so much, like I have for like 16 going on 17 years, see it over there and how they establish themselves, how they work. And, I remember at one point going into this one bar, Tet Bar it's called, and one of probably my favorite place that we went and visited. It's a tiny space. It's a 2-story operation. But the bar itself was no more than like 15 feet by 15 feet max. I mean, it was probably like more in the sense of like 8 foot by 8 foot, I guess. And there's like that right there traditionally in America, that would be like one bartending station. And then maybe a bar back could sit in that space as well, helping out. That bar over there, that same size, they had like 6 people working in it, and everyone was moving and weaving in like the craziest.
And they're just cranking them out.
And I was like, my God, this is amazing. Like, I don't know what I don't know why everyone thinks that you need all this space. And so every single time I've gone in now after seeing that, like when I go in to consult for people, they want to set up a bar, they have this huge space, and we want the bar top to be this long and this. I'm like, dude, you don't need it.
Dude, every bartender
rid
hates
of it.
you. Every bartender's like, I want more space.
And I think it's so ridiculous. I mean, when we set up a Roy and the Thai restaurant, and
you guys have a good sized bar there. I mean,
we have a huge bar there, and not huge. It seats about 12
I
people.
was gonna say about 12, 14.
But that's because the restaurant that was originally there, that was the infrastructure.
It was already. You didn't change that footprint of it.
I didn't. I left that there because I already had plumbing, I had drainage, I had everything there. So it would have been more money to make it smaller. But even then, since then, I have 2 wells, 2 bartending stations in that space. Ever since we opened, you get busy on grand opening night, so you need all that extra labor going on. But outside of that, I've shut that thing down. I haven't used it since.
The second well?
The second well, I haven't used it. I haven't touched it. And so
even for a bar the size of Eureka in San Diego, where I was at La Jolla, it sat 16 at the top and then 2 at the handicap side. So you're sitting on 18 people and it's full by yourself. And we still would run it with like 1 well for the most part.
It's just not necessary to have all that space.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense when you're on a wait and people are coming directly to the bar and they can hit that point spot and get drinks before they get sat down and increase sales that way.
Yeah.
But if it's a good flow to the restaurant, one good bartender should be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you didn't change that footprint for the restaurant, but you did a ton of work on the building, right?
Yeah.
It
100%.
looks great, man.
Thank you.
Really, and inside and out, it looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I guess that was the fun part.
Power washing everything.
Power washing everything.
Every inch of that place.
No, the original space too. You know, everything from. I tried to do as much as I possibly could. I don't like to go into a space. You know, being a creative person, I feel like when I can get my hands on something, when I can be a part of the process of watching it transform to its final product, like that's when I feel like I'm a part of it. If I have a general contractor or I have people working on that space themselves and I'm not a part of that, then I'm walking into like the whole thing done. And I don't feel like I contributed. I don't feel like I lived and breathed and like worked into that space. And so, you know, we did everything in there. You know, we went in and took down plaster off walls and exposed brick walls underneath. I did a bunch of like wheat pasting, a bunch of really cool old vintage like Thai posters and stuff from like advertisements to movies and all across one wall. I can't even tell you, probably like close to 1,000 like bundles of fake plants that we went and put in all over the restaurant. I built like this crazy cool light fixture above the bar that was, I mean, you say these things.
It's got a great vibe, dude.
Yeah,
like
it
it sounds
it's
like
rad.
you're just like saying things, but if you were to
if
see
you go
the
in there and
space,
you see it, you're like, oh fuck, that's a lot of work.
we'll overlay some pictures and stuff of like some interior,
Cool.
and you can see what you're talking about. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that kind of stuff. It takes time, but it was fun. It was enjoyable, and it's something that you actually like. I'm sweating. I definitely bled a couple times in there, and it was like you put in that work of building this whole thing out. You go home at the end of the day, you actually see it opening. You're like, you're proud of it. You're proud that
That's
you
an
actually got to see
accomplishment,
something like go from start to finish. And that right there, you can't put a price tag on it. You can't I don't know. You see people that want to own things, that want to be a part of something, but they don't want to put that into it. And you're like, well, what are you really doing this for? Do you believe in this in any capacity? Like, I don't understand. And
it's just people with money that
I
feel
guess
like
it's
they
people with money.
want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And they have the money to do that, and restaurants and bars need money to open. So I mean, I think that's where the connection comes.
More satisfying though to do it your own.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think if you have the
absolutely.
passion to do it, if as many people who are passionate about bartending really put in the effort to open their own bar, I think they would all be successful, or a lot of them would be successful. If you're familiar with what it takes to be a worker in a business, I think you have a good understanding of how you can make that business successful.
Yep.
When money gets put at things and no one's really put in place that knows or has a background, or you know what I'm saying? It's like it's putting someone that comes from the business world into a kitchen management position.
Yeah, it runs, but it runs without a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to do everything a kitchen manager can do, but they won't have the same passion.
Right.
So it's like that's where a big trade-off comes in. I think that's what's really cool about what you guys are doing is that the passion comes through.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We hope that it does. I mean, we hope that it shows.
It does, man. Going in there, you could just tell there's a good vibe in there.
And you guys arguably opened at the worst possible time in American history, right? It's like,
I mean, it wasn't as bad as like opening a month prior to COVID happening. For us, it was 11 months prior.
Yeah.
We were, I mean, we were
just enough to get going.
yeah, we got going, and it was like, when you first open an operation too, you have the ups and downs. You experience that really big high of first opening, and you kind of ride that momentum for a few months. For us, it was about 2.5 months, and then it starts to dip down because now it's not as new of a space, and then you have to rebuild your clientele up after that, and then after that, it's like, all right, cool. Now we changed some things, and now we've got more momentum and steam underneath us. It's the holiday time period. Here we go. Cool. Then it's beginning of the new year, and now we got all this like real like presence about ourselves within the community, and we're hosting from the Artlands. We have this really cool partnership with them here in Redlands. It's this awesome art studio and gallery, and we have a partnership with them right before the end of the 2019, and we were like bringing different artists, and we're having all these different installations.
The De La Deso, all that stuff.
We had some really dope shit.
Awesome shit.
And so it's like everyone is starting to look to you towards like this beacon in the community now for creativity, for an environment and a space to like sit and chill and have a good time with your friends. And then it's like our 1-year anniversary would have been April 2020, and here I am gearing up to do all these things. I bought all this stuff. I'm redecorating all these different spots and spaces, and buying these huge plants and putting them in potted pots and putting them in the space, and you're doing all these things, and then boom, shut down,
Done.
and you're like, fuck, like, and now we're probably gonna open up for indoor dining closer to our 2-year anniversary, even though we missed our 1st-year anniversary. So
well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the restaurant and cocktail industry, it's that year too where you really start to make your money back, right? The first year is kind of a loss, and then
first year's a loss.
That second year comes in and actually makes up for everything. So going through the whole first year of the loss and then having to just stall for an entire second year where you're supposed to be meeting profits, I'm sure that just completely screwed your business model, completely screwed, as far as what you had planned. You're talking about having an opening, and now you have to do a 2nd-year anniversary instead of your first.
Jim, you're just grinding him into the ground right now.
I was going to say, Jim, was there a question here, or were you just trying to make me feel like more like shit than I have already felt for an entire year?
I'm just trying to pull the emotion out, bro. I could see it was in there, and you're not letting it out.
It sucks. Trust me, it sucks. But at the same time, I firmly believe that like the creative process doesn't stop. Like,
well, look,
like
what you're doing with the restaurant is exactly what Redlands needs. It is you found the vibe, you hit the vein of what people want. We haven't even talked about the food menu that you have there, but it's not a traditional Thai menu of what you would think when you go to a Thai restaurant. Yeah. It's street Thai, and it's wild to walk into a restaurant in Redlands. I'm still thinking of Redlands what it was before restaurants like yours and before ramen places and before it kind of started adopting a real big city or LA food vibe. To walk into a Redlands restaurant and see like a full fish on the menu, and like these cocktails that you're coming up with that pair perfectly with these meals that nobody in Redlands has culture like street Thai food. You're opening up an entirely new culture to people that would never have been exposed to it, and they think of Thai food and they're like, oh, let's go to the fancy Thai place and get this, and just basically
white tablecloth kind of
exactly. But you go in your spot and it's comfortable.
It feels like a bar.
I
love that. I would rather eat at a bar than drink at a restaurant. Let's put it that way.
Totally.
But I also,
and you've melded that together really well, where it's a restaurant feel but a bar vibe.
Thank you. Yeah.
Before Jim just started mortar and pestling you into the ground about your profit margins, I was gonna say, being closed down for COVID this year didn't stop you from doing anything. You've been bartending on the guest spots, like you said, with the Artlands. You just did an event with them up in Joshua Tree where you did some bar work there, and you've also, you and your girlfriend Bree Bart have opened a plant shop here in Redlands. So it's like multi-business owner. You didn't take a day off. You took COVID as an opportunity, got a new brick and mortar space, and had to outfit that whole place too.
Which has been a huge success through COVID, might I add.
Yeah,
you guys
everyone's
stepped
inside,
in the
man.
time.
Everyone has to stay indoors and like away from general public, and so they're finding ways to, spruce up their apartment or their home, or they want to, increase the, just the presence of what's around them. And so for us, we're big plant nerds, and it's kind of what we do in our downtime. On weekends, we go to, estate sales and find pottery. We'll drive out to different nurseries and see what they got in stock. And it was fun, something that we enjoyed doing together. And, COVID happened, and I wasn't working in the bar because for the most part we were shut down. And when we weren't shut down, it was just takeout, and to still operate, you have to bring costs down and you have to bring your labor down. So I had a lot of free time. And so, she had this idea of wanting to do something along those lines. And so I kind of just helped her out through that process. And I did the majority. The majority of the construction in the space, and helping her design the thing out, and kind of showing her some of the ins and outs of small businesses in the area, and kind of also bridging the gap with some other contacts of people here. And
Yes.
it's a really cool thing being creative, and when you don't have a lot of room to be creative. But then it's just about tinkering, you finding ways to fill up your space and fill up your mind, I guess, in a way. And whatever you have in front of you, just kind of tinker with it to the point where it's like, okay, am I better today than I was yesterday? How am I going to be better? How am I going to fill my day up? And am I going to, I always approach it in the sense of someone is working on something. Like I said, I really find a lot of inspiration from sports docs. So this is straight Michael Jordan stuff, man. Where he's like, dude, I wasn't gonna let someone be better than me. I had to work hard, and that's the way I feel. Like it's like, okay, so if everyone's at home right now and the restaurant industry is shut down, I guarantee you someone's working on something to get better, and they're gonna try and come back stronger, and they're gonna try and do this. And it's like, well, if I'm not working, somebody else is, and are they gonna be better? I don't want to be second. I don't want someone else to be better than me.
Can't let them get that leg up.
Yeah. So, you spend your time now, kind of scrolling through, the creative process stops, I guess, at some point, but then you start digging through spreadsheets and looking at numbers and looking at okay, how can we trim this down to where we can be, once we come back, we're more streamlined and efficient, and just clean, and we're making more money or more profitable, or we can provide, greater pay to our employees for having to even go through this whole thing with us, or just things in general. How can you be better than yesterday? And that's kind of that was an interesting thing to sit inside your house for a few months and just think about that. So it was different, but I'm actually grateful. I know this was a really tough time for a lot of people. It was tough for businesses. It was tough for us. It's tough for I've had family members that have passed from this pandemic, and a lot of people that have been affected by it. But you have to find the silver linings. And for me personally, I feel like I kind of found them in tinkering with the restaurant, making it more streamlined, and at the same time helping my girlfriend open up a business and allow her to be a small business owner as well. And so
I'm glad you guys did. My house went from drab and brown to I have more green in my
Check
house
out Forever
now.
Green Shop, Redlands,
Seriously.
California, right here, baby.
When you guys opened, I had to completely reaccount my budget because I was spending $100 a week in there buying these little plants.
$80 on
it's not that much.
pothos.
It's not that much, everybody, for plants.
No, I'm saying I was buying
He was
6
buying
or
12
10
and
plants
killing
a
them.
day.
Yeah,
No, I was buying way too much. It's within walking distance of my house, so I walk down there. I'm like, oh hey, and let's bullshit for a minute, Brian.
Yeah.
Well, while I'm here, I'll grab a plant.
Yeah.
And I was doing that so regularly, and now I don't even have space in my house for any more plants.
I know,
That's awesome.
I know that.
I love it.
But I love it.
I
dude.
think your passions kind of show through in both the Arroy Mock Mock and Forever Green, just because you've always been a big plant guy.
Yeah.
I remember the first time going to your house and walking back
It's like a
out on the
jungle.
patio and just having every little herb and
Yep.
flower imaginable to man
Yeah.
hanging around.
It's fun. It's fun to kind of always have that. I find, I have some friends that are in the bar industry that Eric Castro from Polite Provisions and Raised by Wolves and that whole consortium holding group down
Shout
in San
out
Diego.
Consortium. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. He always, he talks about for him, he's got this routine in the morning where he likes to stretch. He likes to meditate. He does a little bit of yoga. That's how he starts his day off. For me, I found a lot of benefit from going to therapy. It's helped me out with a lot of different things in my life. But you know what? When you don't have money sometimes and you can't afford therapy, watering your plants and actually taking care of them and tending to them is a really therapeutic process. And for me, I have probably about a little over 70 plants indoors. I've got another 120 outside that are all potted, nothing in the ground. And so I it's a lot of work to take care of these things, but it's therapeutic. It's a process of actually being able to walk through, look at something. Oh, cool. We can kind of maybe trim this back, deadhead that. Needs watering here. Okay, is lacking humidity. It's just taking care of these things and like allowing you to kind of recenter yourself.
Right. Well, it takes the focus off of your own problems or your own self, and you're able to free your mind by taking care of something
I got enough
else.
of those. I need some sort of outlet to not remind myself of my problems.
I hear you, dude.
Dude, this plant right here, I bought from the shop, brought it home. I transplanted it the day that I got it. Messed it all up. Started losing leaves. It used to have twice as many leaves as this. I started losing leaves.
Is this plant? Can people see this plant, or is this?
They're seeing it right there. Hopefully,
right
yes,
on the
they're
table?
seeing it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know. I don't know where
This thing
This
was.
one.
This thing was. After I transplanted it, I don't know if the soil had too much nitrogen, burned it, whatever. It just did not want to live. What you're talking about, like meditating, going into these plants, figuring out what they need. I spent weeks and weeks tending to this plant. 10 minutes at a time, just wiping it down, making sure the soil was good, poking holes in the soil to aerate it because it wasn't draining right. Like, I feel like I nursed this plant from death back to life.
There's a lot of gratification in something like that.
Bro, it made me feel good.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
And then I also had to like, oh, you don't like the light here? Okay, here, let's move it over here. See, do you like this light better? Oh, you do?
dude.
Thanks.
It's amazing. It's very much like that. I find myself tinkering and moving things around and kind of like, okay, this is a southern facing window. This is an eastern facing window. Okay, like, this does well in this section over here. This one requires more humidity. Let's try this out. And it's like you're figuring these things out along the way, and you're seeing how they react to it. And you're like, okay, and it's fun. It's
a
enjoyable.
fun learning process.
Yeah,
for sure.
It is, and all plants are like, some are temperamental in their own ways, and you'll learn that too. Like, oh, I don't want to move this once I've kind of established it in a certain spot or whatever it is.
Right.
But that's what makes it fun. Kill a few plants, learn some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But moving forward with the restaurant, you guys said you're opening back up hopefully in April.
Yeah, we're looking at. Just based off of what the current state is here, A, within the state, and then B, also within the county. Looking like interior spaces are going to be finally able to operate again, probably at a smaller portion, 25-40%, something like that. So we're looking at that end of March-ish, I think, is when that's going to happen. I know they're trying to wait and hold off till after St. Patrick's Day because that's such a big party, day and event. So I think after that is when they're going to kind of give that go ahead. So we're kind of just gearing up for it.
Cool, man. Well, besides the restaurant,
Yep.
Forever Green Plant Shop, Arroy Mok Mok,
Yep.
street Thai food here in Redlands. Is there anything else you want to shout out or promote?
No.
Anything else in the works? I mean,
Do you guys have
how do I hire you?
websites?
Yeah, how do I hire you as a private bartender?
You can email me at, like I said before, BryanBruce@gmail.com. Outside of that, right now, I'm working on a new project. I'm trying to put something together for this area here in Redlands, California. I don't have I've got my whole business plan taken care of, but at the same time, nothing I can speak to just yet because I'm. You don't want to put the horse before the cart or the cart.
We'll
before
have
the
you
horse,
back after that
whichever.
happens.
Yeah, we'll do
out.
round two.
Yeah, we'll do it actually at my spot once
There we go.
once it's already there.
Perfect.
So that way we
Down.
can have a really nice visual kind of stimulus going on.
That'd be dope.
Are you going to teach me how to make a whiskey cocktail before you leave?
The cool thing is before I leave. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say is the cool thing is if we do, this project I'm working on is I'm putting so many things on tap. I'm putting a lot of
Awesome.
cocktails on tap. So
Awesome.
at my current restaurant at Arroy, I've got 6 different drinks on tap. The new one that I'll be doing is gonna have somewhere close to about 18 on tap.
Jesus
So
Christ.
very
Wow.
similar to like Polite Provisions.
Right,
in that
a lot
regard.
of batch, just fresh batch cocktails.
And so what I was going to say is like, yeah, if you want to come through, I could show you how to make a whiskey cocktail. And that's literally just going to be like, it'll be a whiskey cocktail on tap. So there you go, Jim. You got it.
I got it.
got some Evan Williams on tap, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
We'll definitely let's wrap up with some old fashions and or something. We'll do a little B-side behind the scenes of Bryan making a drink right now.
Okay.
And thanks for being on the show, dude.
Thank
that
you
was
for
the
having me.
Ratnest podcast.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for
Appreciate
being
it,
here,
guys.
Brian. Thanks for sharing so much.
Right. You can check out the Ratnest podcast every week on YouTube for video and all platforms at Ratnest Podcast and on Instagram at Ratnest Podcast. And for any artwork available, check out Ratnet Sticker Co. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you next week.